So I have finished my cross with the exception of these last two dangling ones so that I can have the chance to show you how to go back down into the leather and come up so you can travel across to the center. I wanted to show you what the final product will look like because I haven't done that yet. We're making a medicine wheel for the keychain. And we have just finished creating the cross that goes in the center to separate them all. And so here, again, I'd like to show you again how I finish a line. I make sure that with my needle, I get my beads up next to the last beads. I'm going to go down into the leather right beside that. Okay, lift my leather up. I can use my finger, right? It's not going to hurt me. I'm going to put the butt of my needle down so that I can get my fingers on each side and push down. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm where I want to be before I continue. Then I can definitely pull that needle all the way through. Get those there. And then you can see on the back of mine, probably very well now, that I have a nice continuation of that white line. And just on the spot that I'm working on now, I have to secure it down first before I do anything else. So this gap of no white line, I'm going to fill in right now by going into the last hole that I was in, making my needle come up on the other side of those two beads. Then I can go through the two beads. And because I'm at the end, I'm going to go back down into the leather. And when we get back onto this side, you're going to see that I indeed closed that gap. And now I have a continuous line. Now again, to get back up to that center, I want to go back one bead only, which means that I'm only going halfway on this last line. I'm going to give it a try. I am happy with that spot right there. You can see it's just the one bead. And push the needle up and pull it through. And then I'm going to go through these 7 beads all the way back to the center. And then I can go down into the leather so that I have successfully finished making my cross. And my thread is now on the back side. To begin, I'm going to follow my colors on here. Okay, so I'm going to start with the red, I think. So I'm going to start over in this quarter section here. And what I need to do for this, I need to make sure that I'm going to come up on the leather over here. I always work, now what's clockwise to me, hopefully it's videoing clockwise, but I always work clockwise and go around in my circles in a clockwise manner. So in my middle section here, I'm going to make sure that my needle pops up just on the inside of that center line here. I'm going to do so now. Just enough so that if I were to get this, we want this bead to be at the exact it's going to angle at the exact 45-degree angle to this quadrant section here. So it's going to, the holes are going this way so that my thread's going this way, but the bead itself is at the 45-degree pointing. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come up right here. So this 45-degree angle, so I'm going to come up into the leather, I'm going to grab my one red bead. It's just going to be one. You're going to notice that right on here. There's one single bead, one yellow, one white, one black, one red. That's what we do on our first circle. There is one. And I'm going to make sure that that bead, like I said, is going to stay angled the way I want it. Now I have to go down on the other side of the one bead, which brings me to the other arm of that quadrant. I'm going to go down into the leather. When I pull it through, you will see how that bead pointing straight up 45 degrees. I do the same thing with all of my beads as I go around in my circle now to create my medicine wheel. I've gone once. I went up into the leather, I put my bead on, I went down into the leather. Now I need to come across this. Here, let's do it this way so it's the same. This right here is where we just came out, okay? So I'm going to cross back over to this side so that I can come back up on the other side of that bead. So back up into the leather, through the bead a second time. Now I have to cross from this quadrant into this quadrant so that I can use my yellow. So I'm simply, in the closest spot to that bead, gonna dip underneath this line of beads. Okay, just gonna slide underneath the line of beads as close as I can to this bead, just sneaking over to the other side. I'm going to grab one yellow bead, let it come on down. Gonna see where it's gonna nicely sit so that it too is sitting at a 45-degree angle. Gonna go beside that bead, down into the leather, and now I have to bring myself up onto the other side of it. Okay, I went down into the leather on this side of the bead. Now I'm coming up on this side of the bead so that I can go back through. Pull my thread all the way through, back through the bead. After I've gone through the bead a second time, I can slip underneath these black beads in line closest to that yellow bead, so I can slip into the next quadrant where I can now put a single white bead. And I'm going to do that again. I want it to be angled at that 45-degree angle. It's a little bit trickier when it's not a straight line, because if I went down next to this bead here, it wouldn't be at a 45-degree angle anymore. It would be angled the same way that this line is going, and I don't want that. So even though I can't get it this way all the time with my fingers, I'm going to pick a spot where I know it'll help it to sit at its angle. And that's the same for coming back up on the other side. You know that where you can put it. You're going to cross over. You cross over here to that other line there. Bring that needle back up so that you can go through that white bead one more time. And then you can sneak underneath these black beads and string into the last quadrant where we're now going to use black. And we're going to do this one more time. Make sure it stays kind of at an angle. You're going to go down into the leather. Always making sure, I'm going to say again, always making sure before you pull your needle through that you are exactly where you want to be. It really beats having to thread your needle over and over again in case you have to take your needle out and undo your work. Then I have to come back up on the other side of that black bead. I'm going to show you again. I went down on this side of the bead, right, along this line here, and now I have to come back up on this side of the bead, which is next to this line here. I'm going to pull it through, go through that bead one more time, like this. I have finished all 4 colors that begin from the center of my circle, and so I'm going to end on the black just like I ended each of my 4 lines. I'm going to bring it down into the leather and out of the way. So now I'm only left with my cross and all 4 colors. Now again, I have to find my way up because now I have to start my second row of beads. My second row of beads, we started with 1 red. The second row of beads is going to have 3 reds, 3 yellows, 3 whites, 3 blacks. And as you notice as we go up, it's going to go 1, 3,